Hello, 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 everybody. It is your boy, Reverend Phoenix Coffin Williams, and I am coming to you today from the wonderful Buffalo, New York, where it is a beautiful, moderate temperature. We got some clouds and some overcast, which I really enjoy. It's shaping up to be a pretty decent day. It is just myself today, as my counterpart, Lady Alyssa, is away on her vacation still. And so, of course, we are praying that she enjoys that and is having a great time enjoying the great goddess's creation. Today, I want to talk a little bit about our relationships with our patrons or our spirit family. I am going to include a few myths, um, but overall, I want to talk about our relationship with our patrons or our spirit families, what it means when we have spirits that belong to a pantheon, what that means for our lives, what that means for our incarnations, what that means for how we develop our souls, refine our karma, get rid of attachments, do all the things that we're meant to do, the purpose for which we are served, that we are here for. Of course, as with all things, I will be talking about it from a Corellian perspective, and how these things translate into our beliefs as Corellians. So hopefully, if you are watching, you find that interesting. Of course, I encourage you to go ahead and participate from whichever platform you are watching on. So if you're on the Facebooks or the YouTubes or the Instagrams or whatever, go ahead and participate in the chat component. And as your chats come through, I will work on incorporating them into the discussion. But first thing is first, before we get too deep into the discussion, I want to take a moment and check in with our sponsors so that we can make sure that we show them some love and support. So I'm going to just go ahead and do that first right now. And of course, the first sponsor that I will be uplifting will be Equinox. All right. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Equinox Learning, for your ongoing support. So boom again. Patreon. Oh, Swag Fan. Hello. Good afternoon, Swag Fan. Thank you for popping in and showing me some love. So boom. Patrons, patron spirits, spirit families. From a Corellian perspective, a patron, a spirit guide, they are but a single face of a vast divinity that has more faces than we could ever hope to experience, although we will eventually experience all of them as a part of ourselves. Good afternoon, Reverend Antonio. How are you doing? I hope you're well. But again, patrons, spirit guides, saints, divas, all of these divinities, they are all an aspect of that great all-encompassing identity of God, of divinity, of source of creation, however you want to refer to it. All of our patrons, all of our spirit guides, all of the heroes, the monsters, the demons, all of them are examples of a face of divinity. And when it comes to doing the great work, joining the priesthood, practicing magic, a lot of times people find it helpful or appropriate or necessary to have a patron divinity identified. In the more modern years, folks have started to pick their own patrons. And some traditions allow that, and other traditions are like, absolutely not. I have my own personal thoughts about picking your own patron and building a relationship. But that's not for like big public consumption. Like if you care about my own personal view on it, you can ask me privately if we run into each other. But very many traditions will allow you to pick a patron, and that is the spirit that you work with, that you elevate, that you make offerings to, that you go to directly when it comes to having to straighten out your life or make sure that your life is on track. When you declare patron, a lot of times it is that spirit that provides the answers to you when you are divining. So if your patron is Osiris, then Osiris is responding to you. You consecrate your tools, you consecrate your divination items, you consecrate all these things to your patron, to Osiris. And when you use them, you are in communication with your spirit. So your tarot cards talking directly to Osiris, your pendulum talking directly to Osiris, your dice talking directly to Osiris, your money spells are powered by your relationship with Osiris. Your love spells are powered by your relationship to Osiris. Your ability to manifest a new job powered by your relationship to Osiris. That is how a relationship with a patron works. And a lot of times, at least from the Corellian perspective, your relationship with your patron, living it strong enough, connecting with it strong enough, being a very willing and true vessel for your patron, for the energy of the universe, for the energy that we work with when we're doing magic. Being a perfected vessel for that through your relationship with your patron has phenomenal impacts on your karma for this life, as well as any of the karma that you're trying to work off as a result of previous lives. And you don't have to have a patron to work off that karma. It's just one way of not attacking, one way of addressing the same assignment. You can do it with a patron, with spirit guides, with perfected energies that have gone through it and who have insight, or you can do it without it and, hope that doing good for the sake of good will, help you burn through the assignment, so to speak. The assignment being returning back to the goddess or the source. One of the things to think about when it comes to perhaps picking your own patron is that there are some things that you will not have access to. There are some mysteries that you will not have access to. There are certain things that you will not be able to achieve when you pick your own patron and you go down a path by yourself. When you go down any magical or spiritual path by yourself, you really do open yourself up to bullshitting yourself, so to speak. Was your experience ego, or was it actually a spiritual experience? Was your experience psychic, or was it hysteria? When you participate with a community, those liabilities about being fantastical or about having unconfirmed experiences, those go away because you have a community that either did or didn't see it too. And the same is kind of true when you are picking your patron. If you pick a patron and you go down the road by yourself, you don't have a community of other people who have gone down the path, who have learned from the path. You don't have access to a community of teachers or elders who can help restructure you if you misinterpret, or if you don't get the entirety of the social context of, sacred writings or what have you. And then the other thing is, you pick a patron, but you might struggle to know what aspect of the patron you are getting. And when I say what aspect, I'm going to read to you a story that exemplifies exactly what I mean by that. This story is called The Destruction of Mankind, and it comes from the Egyptian pantheon. This legend was etched into hieroglyphs on the walls of a small chamber in the tomb of Seti I at about 1350 BC, so 1,350 years before Christ. And the myth goes, when Ra, the self-begotten and self-formed god, had been ruling gods and men for some time, men began to complain about him, saying his majesty has become old, his bones have turned into silver, his flesh into gold, and his hair into real lapis lazuli. His Majesty heard these murmurings and commanded his followers to be summoned to his presence in the presence of his eye, i.e., the goddess Hathor. Shu, Tefnut, Kep, Nut, and the father and mother gods and goddesses who were with him in the watery abyss of Nu, and also the god of this water, Nu. They were to come to him with all their followers secretly, so that men should not suspect the reason for their coming, and take flight. And they were to assemble in the great house in Heliopolis, where Ra would take counsel with them. In due course, all the gods assembled in the great house, and they ranged themselves down the sides of the house, and they bowed down in homage before Ra until their heads touched the ground, and said, "Speak, for we are listening." Then Ra, addressing Nu, the father of the firstborn gods, told him to give heed to what men were doing, for they whom he had created were murmuring against him. And he said, "Tell me what you would do. Consider the matter, invent a plan for me, and I will not slay them until I have heard what you shall say concerning this thing." And Nu replied, "You, O my son Ra, are greater than the God who made you. You are the king of those who were created with you. Your throne is established, and the fear of you is great. Let your eye, i.e., Hathor, attack those who blaspheme you." And Ra said, "Lo, they have fled to the mountains, for their hearts are afraid because of what they have said." The gods replied, "Let your eye go forth and destroy those who blasphemed you, for no eye can resist you when it goes forth in the form of Hathor." Thereupon the eye of Ra, or Hathor, went in pursuit of the blasphemers in the mountains and slew them all. On her return, Ra welcomed her, and the goddess said that the work of vanquishing men was dear to her heart. Ra then said that he would be the master of men as their king, and that he would destroy them. For 3 nights, the goddess Hathor Sekhmet waded about in the blood of men, the slaughter beginning at Hensu, also known as Heracleopolis Magna. Then the majesty of Ra ordered that messengers should be sent to Abu, a town at the foot of the first cataract, to fetch mandrakes, and when they were brought, he gave them to the god Sekti to crush. When the women slaves were bruising grain for making beer, the crushed mandrakes were placed in the vessels that were to hold the beer, together with some of the blood of those who had been slain by Hathor. The beer was then made, and 7,000 vessels were filled with it. When Ra saw the beer, he ordered it to be taken to the scene of slaughter and poured out on the meadows of the 4 quarters of heaven. The object of putting mandrakes in the beer was to make those who drank fall asleep quickly. And when the goddess Hathor came and drank the beer mixed with blood and mandrakes, she became very merry, and the sleepy stage of drunkenness coming on her, she forgot all about men, and slew no more. At every festival of Hathor, ever after, sleepy beer was made, and it was drunk by those who celebrated the feast. Now, although the blasphemers of Ra had been put to death, the heart of the god was not satisfied, and he complained to the gods, that he was smitten with the pain of the fire of sickness. He said, "My heart is weary because I have to live with men. I have slain some of them, but worthless men still live, and I did not slay as many as I ought to have done, considering my power." To this the gods replied, "Trouble not about your lack of action, for your power is in proportion to your will." Here the text becomes fragmentary, but it seems that the goddess Nut took the form of a cow, and that the other gods lifted Ra onto her back. And when men saw that Ra was leaving the earth, they repented of their murmurings. And the next morning they went out with bows and arrows to fight the enemies of the sun god. As a reward for this, Ra forgave those men their former blasphemies, but persisted in his intention of retiring from the earth. He ascended into the heights of heaven, being still on the back of the cow goddess Nut, and he created there Sekhet Hetep and Sekhet Aru as abodes for the blessed, and the flowers that blossomed therein he turned into stars. He also created the millions of beings who lived there in order that they might praise him. The height to which Ra had ascended was now so great that the legs of the cow goddess on which he was enthroned trembled, and to give her strength, he ordained that Nut should be held up in her position by the godhead and upraised arms of the god Shu. This is why we see pictures of the body of Nut being supported by Shu. The legs of the cow goddess were supported by the various gods, and thus the seat of the throne of Ra became stable. When this was done, Ra caused the earth god Keb to be summoned to his presence, and when he came, he spoke to him about the venomous reptiles that lived in the earth and were hostile to him. Then turning to Tot, he bade him to prepare a series of spells and words of power which could enable those who knew them to overcome snakes and serpents and deadly reptiles of all kinds. Tot did so, and the spells which he wrote under the direction of Ra served as a protection of the servants of Ra ever after, and secured from them the help of Keb, who became sole lord of all the beings that lived and moved on and in his body, the earth. Before finally relinquishing his active rule on earth, Ra summoned Tot and told him of his desire to create a light soul in the Tuat and in the land of the caves. Over this region, he appointed Tot to rule, and he ordered him to keep a register of those who were there and to mete out just punishments to them. In fact, Tot was to be ever after the representative of Ra in the other world. That myth right there gave us several divinities to think about, and it gave us several behaviors to consider. So when it comes to thinking about your patron, each behavior that is captured in a scripture, each behavior that is captured in a myth gives insight into an aspect of that divinity's personality. Sometimes the aspect of the personality has a different name or a combined name. So, in the case of the myth that I just read, Hathor Sekhmet is an aspect of this divine goddess Hathor and this divine goddess Sekhmet, who appear to be separate goddesses sometimes, but also appear to be the same goddess with dual attributes in other times. And so, knowing this mystery about the Egyptian pantheon gives insight into what you can expect or what might be beneficial for you to think about when it comes to seeking the blessing of Hathor, seeking help with removing obstacles, with personality characteristics that you yourself might have to contend with. So, for example, if you are asking your patron, who is Hathor, for help clearing obstacles out of your path, what do you have to do to make sure that the version that's clearing obstacles is not the version that needed to be appeased by drinking sleepy beer? What do you have to do with your invocations, with your offerings, and with your petitions and what have you to make sure that you are dealing with the correct aspect of the divinity that you hope to be dealing with? And what does this mean for your expectations for your outcomes? One of the other things that I want to talk about is what happens to you when you have a patron that is a part of a pantheon, and the pantheon has prescriptions and taboos, or when that pantheon has prescriptions for right living. What does this mean for your behavior? What does this mean for your orientation towards right living? What does this mean for how you carry yourself and conduct yourself as someone who's a representative of a divinity from a particular pantheon? And so I'm going to keep it with the Egyptian pantheon, and I'm going to go to the myth, the weighing of the heart of Ani. Ancient Egyptians believed that the fate of the dead was decided in the Hall of Osiris. Here, the god sat in judgment while the dead person's heart, the seat of human conscience, was weighed against a feather. Upholding the fateful balance, a contrivance used to weigh commodities in commercial transactions, was the dog-headed ape, who was also a manifestation of Thoth, or Tot, or Thoth, the divine scribe, while jackal-headed Anubis made sure that everything about the balance was in its correct setting. If the heart proved heavier than a feather, the soul owning it was destroyed by the monster Ammit, or Amemet, the devourer, or the eater of the dead, or the eater of the souls. And this creature was described as standing behind Tot, or Thoth. The following passages from the Papyrus of Ani illuminate some of this process and provide a description of this hybrid monster. 1. The names of the gods of the Great Company. Ra Harmarchis, the great god in his boat. Temu, Shu, Tefnut, Keb, Nut, the lady of heaven. Isis, Nephthys, Horus, the great god. Hathor, lady of Amentet, Sa. 2. The prayer of Ani. My heart, my mother, my heart, my mother, my heart whereby I came into being, may not stand up to oppose me at my judgment. May there be no opposition to me in the presence of the chiefs. May there be no parting of thee from me in the presence of him that keepeth the balance. Thou art my Ka, which dwelleth in my body, the god Khenemu, who knitteth together and strengtheneth my limbs. Mayest thou come forth into the place of happiness, whither we go. May the Shenu officials who make the conditions of the lives of men not cause my name to stink, and may no lies be spoken against me in the presence of the God. Let it be satisfactory unto us, and let the listener God be favorable unto us, and let there be joy of heart to us at the weighing of words. Let not that which is false be uttered against me before the great God, the Lord of Amentet. Verily, how great shalt thou be when thou risest in triumph. 3. The speech of Thoth. Thoth, the judge of right and truth of the great company of the gods, who are in the presence of Osiris, saith, Hear ye this judgment. The heart of Osiris hath in very truth been weighed, and his heart so hath borne testimony on his behalf. His heart hath been found right by the trial in the great balance. There hath not been found any wickedness in him. He hath not wasted or stolen the offerings which have been made in the temples. He hath not committed any evil act, and he hath not set his mouth in motion with words of evil whilst he was upon earth. 4. Speech of the dweller. In the embalmment chamber, pay good heed, O righteous judge, the balance to support the testimony thereof. Pay good heed, or turn thy face, the weighing of the balance of the heart of the Osiris, the singing woman of Amen on high, whose word is truth, and place thou her heart in the seat of truth in the presence of the great God. So as you can, and I'm not even done with the weighing of the heart, but we running out of time a little bit, so we'll have to pick this up at another time. But all of that to say that when you declare a patron from a pantheon, you also inherit that cosmology superimposed over your life and superimposed over how you work through your karma. So if you choose an Egyptian pantheon divinity to be your patron, then you are also committing to living in line with the laws of Ma'at. You are also committing to making sure that your soul or your heart is not heavier than the feather of Ma'at once you pass away and you go through your education between lives. You also inherit the other divinities in the pantheon. So while your patron might end up being Osiris or Hathor or Ra, who is fighting Apep, or Ra, who is, you know, sick and asking Isis for help. While your patron might be any of these divinities, you also inherit in your court or in your band the other divinities of that pantheon. So your patron is Osiris, and sure, one of the things that you can do to support your relationship with Osiris is to elevate Isis, to elevate Nephthys, to elevate Anubis, to elevate Horus. And because each of these divinities also has a specialty that they are known for, you also get access to their grace when you need assistance. So perhaps Osiris is your patron, and through your relationship with Osiris, you also can call on Horus for protection and defense in battle. You get to draw on Hathor or Sekhmet or Bast when it comes to some of the more aggressive protection or battle magic that you have to engage in, or fighting that you have to engage in, or protection that you have to engage in. So keep that in mind when it comes to picking out your patron. When it comes to a sincere approach to the clergy and to magic, I think that one of the things that you can do to start the process of taming or killing your ego is to look outside yourself, look away from your own experiences for assistance in divining and making determinations. I agree that it is a direct challenge to yourself, to your ego, to your own longstanding belief systems to allow a clergy member in the faith that you want to be a clergy of at some point someday, but to allow a member of the clergy to actually do some divination for you and help clarify, is there a spirit that is calling on you, that is knocking on your door trying to help you with your karma or trying to help you through life? And if so, what are the blessings that you will get from elevating that spirit and that relationship that you wouldn't get by seeking the patronage that you think is already meant for you? Not saying that you can't do that. However, by thinking that you already got it figured out patron wise, you have already started to give in to hubris. You have already started to give in to ego, and you have already started to misinterpret the point of spirituality, faith, and religion to begin with. It's not just us, it's for each other and everyone simultaneously. And that's something that is learned as you progress through the levels of initiation. The attention to your responsibility in the faith does become more clear. But that is my time for today. Hopefully, y'all found that helpful. Hopefully, you found it interesting. Hopefully, it piqued your curiosity. And hopefully, I see y'all back next time. Maybe I'll be joined by Lady Alyssa. But either way, I will continue this conversation about patrons and elevating your spirits and juxtaposing them between picking your own adventure and living the adventure that is divined for you, or the one that is forecast for you by clergy members and representatives of divinity. Hopefully, y'all have a great week. See y'all next Friday. Much love. Phoenix out.